Welcome back. In our community, my next guest that I'm having here in the studio is very well known in Brockville and surrounding areas. And he did retire from the legal profession. And he was a poet. And he was writing poetry, and he's had a few books that he has actually published. Well, then he retired and he started to delve into novels. And I'm talking about Neville Johnston, and what he has written. One of his books is Burden of Bondage. He has another one, which is Road to Oblivion, The Great War of Osby MacDonald. He's got another one too, which is referred to as The Shadow of the Force. And we're going to have to find out more, because I'm sure there's more that are on the back burner that he either has started or they're finishing or whatever. So we'll talk to him about that. But right now, let's talk to him about the book that we have here, Burden of Bondage. Welcome to the program, Neville. I'm sorry that was long.
Thanks for having me, Doreen. It's a pleasure.
No, it's our pleasure. Why are you writing novels? You were writing poetry before. Why did you turn to novels?
I've always wanted to write novels.
Really?
Throughout my life, yes. And the problem is practicing law. As I say, law is a very demanding mistress. Mm-hmm. And the hours were generally consumed in law.
Yes.
And once I retired, I had oodles of time to spend writing. And hence, I've written 3 novels during the COVID pandemic.
Yes.
And I'm on the 4th, and I have ideas for maybe another 3 after that.
Another 3? Where do your ideas come from?
You know, it's amazing. I'll give you an example with Burden of Bondage.
Yes.
And it's mentioned in the epilogue, but not from a personal perspective. I came across a gravestone, and it was on land that was going to be developed.
Yes.
And I gathered it was an old plantation. And so the gravestone, it was a stone that was had carvings of 3 words: Quamina, and beneath that Quashi, and beneath that Queen. And that's all that there was. No date of death or who this person was.
Yes.
And and everything, of course, everything else, except for there were 6 metal handles from a casket, but everything else had turned to dust.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so obviously it had been there for maybe, I figured, about 150 years. Mm-hmm. And I always wondered about this woman, Quamina. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, I thought that she was a slave.
Yes.
And Quashi in Jamaica, you generally use now in the Jamaican patois indicating some person from a lower class person.
Yes.
And then it said Quamina Quashi, Queen. Mm-hmm. And so I gathered her name was Quamina, and she was Queen of the Quashis. And so I made her the heroine in Burden of Bondage. And that's all that it sprung from that seed.
Wow.
And then the second novel, Road to Oblivion, the seed was as simple as this, that I had a relative, and I mentioned in the book, I don't know exactly what the relationship was, but we called him Uncle Osby.
Yes.
And he volunteered to fight in the First World War and went to the Western Front, and he came back shell-shocked.
Yes.
And that was the seed for that novel.
My heavens.
And it just takes just a small seed, and it germinates and grows into a plant and then a big tree and branches out.
So do you write every day?
I since I've been retired,
yes.
Unless I had to be, say, for example, here, mm-hmm. I would spend, on an average, maybe 4, 5, 6 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Really?
Yes, I would generally start between 9 and 10 in the mornings and go on till maybe 1 or up to 3 o'clock before I break for lunch or something.
Yes.
And Jerry has been great because she covers to protect my privacy
Yes,
while
yes.
I'm writing.
Yes.
So I'm not disturbed during those periods.
Yeah. That's
And so
wonderful.
it's an ideal situation for writing.
Does Jerry read your chapters once
Yes,
she does?
she's my main editor.
Uh-huh.
She edits, as a matter of fact, the novel that's being released hopefully this month is called The Shadow of the Force.
Yes.
She's already read it 4 times.
4 times.
4 times editing it.
Yes.
And she says each time that she approaches it and reads it, it's like it's all new.
Wow.
Yeah, and she...
That's like a movie. When you go and see a movie more than once,
Yes.
you see something else in the movie.
That's
so that would
right.
be the same as reading.
She says that Shadow of the Force is, she likes the other 2, but as a matter of fact, she says she loves them, but she really loves Shadow of the Force. It's, and I said, for me, of course, I have no favorites because, you know, they're all my children.
They're all, yes, yeah, they're all yours.
Yeah.
So are you going to tell us a little bit about the Shadow of the Force? Or
The Shadow of the Force
yes.
is, the seed was the suicide of a lawyer in Toronto.
Okay.
And I did it from the point of view that his wife didn't accept that it was a suicide,
Yes.
and she decided to delve more deeply into
Okay.
the background,
Yes.
and she knew nothing at all about her husband's practice. Absolutely nothing. She didn't know what he made from the practice. She didn't know, except that was a huge amount of money because he was, by this time, relatively wealthy. And she then started her own investigation, which took her to Bern in Switzerland. And she went to Florence and Paris, and she hired a private investigator in Bern by the name of Joachim Fankhauser.
Yes.
And he turned out to be a star investigator. He went to Rome and got tied up with becoming the hunted. And anyway, it's don't want to reveal the end.
No.
But that's essentially what that was about.
So your books that you're writing are they're fiction, but would you say that there's facts in there?
Yes. For example, in The Shadow of the Force,
Yes.
there's a lot tied in with the Medici family
Yes.
of 400 years ago, and that's a central theme, so to speak. And so there are a lot of facts about the Medicis. And did you know that in the Medici family there were 4 popes that were produced by that one family?
No, I didn't know. No. Wow.
And you get facts like this, you see.
Wow.
And then there was a Catherine de Medici who specialized in investigating poisons.
Oh.
And there's a room in Chateau de Blois, which is maybe about 150 miles from Paris, and it's called Catherine's Secret Chamber. Some people call it the Chamber of Horrors.
Yes.
Because in that she had cabinets with all her poisons and the records.
Wow.
And so it's a very, very interesting venture.
So research.
Yes.
How do you conduct your research? How do you?
By different means. I've got a library at home.
Yes.
With maybe a couple thousand books in it.
Okay.
And including encyclopedia and of course on the internet. There's a lot that you can get from the internet.
Right.
And you don't necessarily need to know everything about every topic. it's enough to, as I said, I look at, say, Shakespeare,
Yes.
and what did he have to work with, right?
Sure, eh? Yes.
I'm
yes.
sure that a lot of these places, I'm not sure that he visited all these places that he wrote about in his plays.
Right, right. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, I must tell you, I read them both, and like, I'm not a speed reader, but I did, in fact, enjoy both of them. And they are the type of book that you want to know what happens in the next chapter. So you kept me on my toes.
Good.
Yes. And there's writing. I classify writing when I'm reading a book. Some people can write. Some people have the gift. You have the gift.
Well, thank you very much.
You do. You do. Because from all the books that I have read, there are very few that I would say to the author.
That's very
that they have it.
meaningful to me because the main purpose of my writing is for the enjoyment of my readers.
They'll enjoy these. Trust me.
Yes.
Trust me.
That's my ultimate objective.
Yeah.
And if I can get one reader that says that he or she enjoyed a book, that's good enough for me.
Well, I tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed these. Where can people obtain these books?
Okay, they are available on Amazon.ca and Amazon.com.
Yes.
And also, they're now available at shopdreamweaver.ca
Yes.
/collections/Canadian books.
And the other thing that people can do, as long as they have the title and your name, they can Google them because they'll come right up.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, they should.
Neville, thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be with you again, Doreen.
Well, I really, really do appreciate it because I know we did talk about your poetry, and then when I had heard that you had these, these are awesome. They really, really are.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, I'm very serious. These are good books. Please do pick them up because you really